So I know the bulletin says that the Reverend Robert Rhodes is going to give the sermon, Brother Bob, Brother Robert, but things have changed, so here I am. And actually, I'm very thankful. I've had two great lead-ins between Carol's presentation on gratitude was magnificent, and Pat. Thank you. So we return all that love to you and Bob also. I'm going to start with the prophet Habakkuk. We were messing around before the 8 o'clock trying to figure out how many different ways we could pronounce that. And then we started on Zacchaeus, which actually is a little easier than Habakkuk, but you can see we messed people up. It's just the way it is. So whatever way we pronounced it, it's the way it's going to be. That's just the way it is. Zach. Habakkuk is a prophet. He's a minor prophet. That means that he didn't write a whole lot of stuff. He's living about the same time as the prophet Jeremiah, and that means that they're living during the period of the Babylonian captivity, which means that the state of Israel has been kind of deported into Babylon, and the people that are left in Israel are kind of like, now what? So Habakkuk is asking a question of God. And that's always a brave thing to do. And that's the first part of it. His statement to God is, or his question to God is, hey, I don't get this. The people that are acting unjustly seem to be the ones that are prospering. And all the people, I mean, I know Israel didn't do what we're supposed to do, but really this? What's going on? Habakkuk, let me teach you a thing or two. One, don't for 1 second think that I'm not working in your life. And whatever's going on with Babylon is happening to demonstrate my justice in this world. So you are looking at it this through like the little pinhole. And when you ask me, Habakkuk, which is okay, you can ask the question, but my answer is too big for you to hear. Because justice really is met out in the heart of God, not in the ways of humanity. Do we need to study world history to know that that is true? Do we need to look at our front newspaper and see what I've just said is true? What God answers to Habakkuk is this. I want you to understand that people who live with dishonor have wounded, crooked hearts, and they will not last. The faith will hold the people together. Be steadfast through your trials and your tribulations. The faith that Habakkuk is describing to us in his prophecy is like a lighthouse that stands on the hill, and on a beautiful day like today, which is at least for the next 30 minutes, you can see it, and it's a magnificent thing. But when this fog blows through and when it becomes night and whatever, that lighthouse does not move. It continues to illuminate and lead people home. This is the faith the prophet Habakkuk is describing for us. Be steadfast. Hold on to. Be anchored in your faith. God is with you. For Habakkuk to hear that, he has to change his perspective from seeing just a little to seeing the big picture. In our gospel, we have Zacchaeus. And Zacchaeus is short, and he's a tax collector, and he's not a popular guy, and he's rich. And I can imagine Zacchaeus grew up being picked on a lot. If you all remember middle school is the time that it's the terrible twos. Too tall, too short, too skinny, too fat, too wide, too narrow, too this, too that. Remember those awful days? I'm kind of thinking that Zacchaeus had to live through that because of his short stature. I'm sure that most jokes were about Zacchaeus, picking on him. You know how cruel people can be. So Zacchaeus can't really see what's going on. And Luke, our gospel writer, gives us a literal thing that we have to do in what Zacchaeus did. Zacchaeus literally climbed a tree to change his perspective to see Jesus. The literalness of that, you're going to learn how to climb trees today. The literal thing is, sometimes in our lives, we have to climb a tree and see things more clearly, to change our perspective of what's going on in our lives, to clarify our view, to look at things not through like a knothole, but to try to get the bigger picture. And what happened with Zacchaeus in the sycamore tree, easily climbed, is that he saw Jesus, the person that he sought to see. And Jesus saw him. And that interaction, that vision, changed the life of Zacchaeus. Jesus just looked at him, and as Jesus always does, says something totally normal to just kind of refocus everybody back down. He says, "Hey, Zacchaeus, sitting up in the tree, don't fall out now. I'm coming to your house for dinner. And when I enter your home, the blessing of salvation is for all people there." Zacchaeus has sought to see Jesus. And he had to scramble up a tree and probably lose some of his dignity. I'm sure I would lose my dignity if I tried to scramble up a tree. And I'm not looking at a lot of professional tree climbers out here, right? But Zacchaeus so wanted to see Jesus that he was willing to scramble up the tree and to look like a fool. Most people thought he was one anyway. They'd been making fun of him all of his life. So he scrambled up the tree and he saw Jesus. And what happened is he made room in his heart for Jesus just by being honest. His conversation is, "Hey, look, I know I cheat people on taxes. Not all of them. And I'm taking my fair share. That's why you can come to the dinner and we have a fatted calf. So I know I have work to do, Jesus. But I need you in my life. There's something I need that needs to be different. Because what's going on in my life is not fulfilling me. So here, Jesus, take my dignity as I scramble up the tree. And I know I have work to do. My heart is open. And it is in that openness and that honesty that there is room for God. There's room for that new perspective. There's room for transformation. There's room for justice and peace to flower. There is room for new life. There is room for love. Zacchaeus' life changed as he opened his heart and changed his perspective on Jesus. We live in a society that claims that it's Christian and has Christian roots. I'm not doubting any of that. I'm doubting maybe whether it's a Christian society. The reason why I point this up, and I'm not here to, this is not a political comment, I'm not going there. What I'm just trying to say is we have grown up in a society that has been influenced by what is considered to be Christian values. Now, in truth, some of the times we have to scramble up the tree to see, are we really looking at what reflects the gospel? What reflects the love of God? That's all I'm saying. This is not a political comment. It is important for us to do that because sometimes the image that we have, the face of God that we see, is not the face that Jesus has presented to us. Excuse me. The face that we see is not the face that Jesus has presented to us. Did I get it right that time? Mm-hmm. So we have to give up sometimes how we see God to let Jesus show us who God really is. When Zacchaeus climbs up the tree, he sees Jesus. And when he sees Jesus, he sees love. There's no condemnation, there's no mockery, there's no judgment. All Jesus does is look into his eyes and sees Zacchaeus is open. And Zacchaeus looks into Jesus' eyes and sees love. Let's go to dinner. You and I, all of us, have a lot more to do. There's a lot more work in each one of us. I still, when somebody cuts me off on the freeway, want to give them the Texas high sign. I hope to God the day before I die that doesn't happen because there is more work for me to do. But why I can attempt to do more work is because when I gaze into how Jesus has revealed God to us through the gospel, it is a loving God, a God who stands by us like the lighthouse and says, I am with you, loving you. Right now, I know you may not be able to see, but I love you, and I'm here. This is the God that Jesus has revealed to us. Let us climb up the sycamore tree to find Jesus. Let us be open. Open our eyes that we might see Jesus. And Jesus' promise. Salvation. Healing. All those bumps and bruises. They're all going to be taken care of. I promise. Climb a tree with me.